Hi, I'm Brian Ives from Beasley Media Group, and I'm the host of How I Wrote That Song. This podcast is a group effort between us, BMI, and HD Radio, and we're powered by Yeti mics. Thank you, Yeti. This mic includes DTS audio technology, and you can buy it wherever electronic gear is sold. Today, we're talking to Taylor Momsen and Ben Phillips of The Pretty Reckless. Now, not everyone you hear on the radio writes their own songs, and that's okay. But Taylor and Ben co-write nearly everything. Thanks for giving me the time, guys.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
So let's just jump into it. I wanted to ask you, you have a lot of #1 songs on rock radio. But let's start with your first #1 is Heaven Knows. The backbeat of that is just such a good, that to me is the first thing I always notice about that song, and the first time I heard it too. But talk about, the writing of the song. Obviously the backbeat is more production, but how you had the idea to sort of put such a strong drum. It's almost like We Will Rock You. But, tell me about writing it and putting it together.
The chorus came first, and it was more just Taylor singing to a group of kids. Hence, we got the group of kids. I think we recorded a playground and everything in the beginning of that.
We did. A sing repeat teaching the children, and it was just going to go way down below, and then into the next song.
And so it turned into a whole thing. And just a really simple song that just it's one chord mostly, and then goes to the 4 chord in the chorus or the bridge or whatever you want to call it in the B section.
Noticed that a lot of bands, when they have a first big #1 hit, a lot of times it's not something that they thought was going to be their big song at all. That seems to be the case here, because it started as an interlude and then it becomes the first #1. So your next #1 was Messed Up World, and obviously you changed the title to get it even played on the radio, obviously. A song with an original title like that, it must have also surprised you. It's a #1 hit on rock radio.
Okay, well, it's originally called Effed Up World, and we switch it to Messed Up World.
And that is probably out of our career thus far. Yeah. Taylor has said often that's one of the one or two things where we bent on something that we probably wish we didn't.
I tend to not. I don't really look at my life and go, "Oh, I wish I could change this, that, and the other." I don't think either of us think that way. We like where we are. But if I had my druthers, I'd go back and not. I wouldn't have changed that title.
Just mute the word. We were on tour in Manchester, England.
Yeah. When
we had to deliver a radio edit. And so we kept muting it, and it sounded weird. And so we just sang the messed up thing. I think our front of house sound guy recorded it backstage real quick. Yeah.
They were like, we needed it yesterday. We're like, okay, here, try this, see if that works. And I guess apparently it did, though, because it did go #1, which is, again, very cool. So
the line that always stuck out to me about that is "No mountain of money can buy you a soul." That is a great line. Can you talk about that one?
I can think of the direct thing, but I don't know.
It was kind of a direct correlation to another song, actually, but
that was quite popular at the time.
Yeah, quite popular at the time. So it was kind of all those lyrics.
We won't say what song, but
we won't say what song because it will probably piss someone off.
We won't. But there's a popular song at the time that was everywhere, and we were not quite a fan of.
Well, why don't we just talk about what the lyrics about, which is just honestly money. Is the root of all evil.
No, for sure. It definitely comes off. So you guys co-wrote those other songs. Follow Me Down was a #1. Taylor, I think you wrote that one by yourself, or was that also a co-write?
No,
Taylor and I have written everything together, except for maybe a couple songs that she wrote, maybe 1 or 2 I wrote.
Ones, but even the ones I write by myself or whatever, we're still doing it together. It's just
very, I don't want to use the analogy. It's a very Lennon McCartney-esque kind of thing where it is always the two of us. There's never been a writing collaborator. I think we threw Cato on some of because he was such a producer of it in the very beginning. We put his name on it. It was more of a
credit,
business structure. But the writing has always just been me and Taylor. But anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Follow Me Down.
Oh, right. That was where were we going with this? So Follow Me Down.
Which Taylor was really into Lolita at the time, I believe.
Yes, I was reading Lolita. I had watched every rendition of Lolita. I was very obsessed with the Lolita story, if you will, and that was kind of the inspiration for Follow Me Down, where it's the kind of the concept of doing something sexually that is not necessarily considered appropriate, and and getting and reveling in it and getting away with it and enjoying all the naughtiness of it, or whatever.
Lolita is the basis of that song.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk about Take Me Down. Songs about dealing with the devil are like sort of a constant throughout rock and roll history. For me, it never gets old, but talk about your sort of take on that.
Well, that kind of stemmed from, it obviously stems from the Robert Johnson legend of going down to the crossroads and selling your soul for music. In his case, the blues, in our case, rock and roll.
Which then incited the movie Crossroads with Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
And a lot of that song is actually kind of tongue-in-cheekly based on that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little throw to the Rolling Stones in the very beginning.
Yeah.
There's some other throws too. There's a little Beatle, a little Eric Clapton. Anyone who kind of brought any Robert Johnson into the 60s. We get really detailed about it.
Yeah.
So there's little nods to anyone in the 60s who was playing Robert Johnson's music throughout the song itself.
Well, really, it all came together. Not to interrupt you, but it all came together when we had All I Want to Do Is Rock part came in.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
We didn't have that yet, and we'd started to lay down the guitars and stuff for the song, right? I hadn't finished the lyrics yet, but we were recording it. Because we knew we had it, but I just hadn't finished the words. And I was outside taking a break with Ben. And he came out, or I went in or something. I was shut. I got it. Wait, don't care what happens when I die. As long as I'm alive, all I want to do is rock, go. It was like in the booth, but I didn't go into the booth. I went into the control room and just sang it right into the microphone, and that ended up being the take. I couldn't beat it.
I wanted to ask, even though it's not a number one song, Back to the River, I'm a huge fan of Warren Haynes. I love what he played on your track, and it sounds like almost a tribute in a way to the Allman Brothers Band. They're like parts of it remind me of Midnight Rider even.
Do you mind if I speak on that song, Taylor?
No, go ahead.
All right. May I?
Asking permission for the first time in your life.
The song was actually more. It was actually more of it had a Who feel to it in the beginning, the Who, and then that was the chorus, and then the verse came in, and it just sounded. It sounded like the Allman Brothers. So, Cato wasn't a huge Allman Brothers fan, and Taylor and I are. And Taylor has a very classic rock taste. She grew up with it, and so she has this big encyclopedia of classic rock. And she was like, "How can't you not love the Allman Brothers?"
Well, we agree on everything else.
And so I put on the record 7 turns to kind of like push Cato to make a phone call. And Warren Haynes did it, so he did it, and he did it in his own studio, and he sent it. So we recorded the whole thing. We have a bunch of guitars. Me, Taylor, Cato, Tommy Burns from Billy Joel's band, Mark and Jamie. We had a huge band in the studio. We recorded it live, one take at Water Music. So the whole song is live, one take. We did like 3 takes, pick take 2.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say that's the first time we really did that too. Like as a band on
maybe
Who You Selling For was the first record that we actually really jammed at, like did full takes with everyone playing at the same time.
I wanted to ask, of course, about Death by Rock and Roll, another number one hit. Talk about that. One of the things that stands out to me about you guys is, as you were kind of alluding to, you're unapologetically rock.
Thank you.
I think we see ourselves more as just a kind of a guitar-based band more, and it comes out as rock and roll. And to his point, the unapologetic part of it is you're playing the music you want to play. You're kind of not hearkening it to any kind of whatever. And that's where
the outside world doesn't even enter your mind when you're making music.
Yeah.
It's just because why would it? Like, you're making music for you, and then you put it out into the world, and hopefully other people like it too.
And that is what the sentiment of Death by Rock and Roll is
live life your own way, go out your own way. No one's going to tell you differently. Death by Rock and Roll.
Thank you so much, guys, for giving us the time. Thank you, Yeti, for the mics, and we'll see you next time on How I Wrote That Song.
Thank you.
Thanks.